I'm going to start this video by like some very fitting song lyrics. I'm not going to like sing this on par. But you ever listen to that Cypress Hill song like Rockstar or something where it's like it starts off, there's a lot of sharks out there trying to take a bite. That's like how this topic of the video is going to go, because there's a lot of sharks out there, you know, trying to get a bite and capitalize on people's ambitions. And I'm just calling this out. Specifically, this one goes out to the younger audiences of people like in their early 20s who don't have as much experience in life, because around that age, and like this was the guy I was dealing with who was like around 22 or something like that. I'm gonna leave the name and the organization he was out for like obvious purposes, just because I want to leave it ambiguous. But you guys know about like multi-level marketing and, you know, quote unquote pyramid schemes. And if you have like any sort of like experience with MLMs or something like that, you know that like they'll always say, oh, we're not a pyramid scheme because we sell products, and then that kind of like muddies the water like legally for them, which is kind of why like I'm mudding the legal water for me here by not bringing up any organization names or names, just because I don't want to throw these people under the bus. But I'm pretty sure you've heard about them. If you want to guess in the comments below, there's plenty of like, when it comes to multi-level marketing and pyramid scheme YouTube, this organization's been covered multiple times. I'm not going to give out their name, but if you want to guess in the comments, you know, hey, let me know. But I think we got to start with this story at the very beginning. Now, how did we get here? Okay, well, here's the thing. So I did have one thing in my life that was like relationship related, kind of go south. It was going really good, and then it kind of went south. It was pretty short lived, but it still kind of hurt. So in my response, when you have like a kind of heartbreak like that, you could either sit in your room and sulk, or you can go out there and try to market and network and look for like that next chapter or that next thing in your life. That's what I really like to do. You know, is like go out there, go meet people, go hang out with friends, go do that. Keep your mind occupied, go hustle, go start something, turn that energy into something productive, because, you know, that's like how I go with it. So that's what I've been doing. I've been doubling my workouts. I've been doubling my jiu-jitsu. I've been going out. I've been posting a lot more content on just a bunch of different topics on multiple channels and a lot of different projects that I got rocking for me. I also, you know, won gold on my last jiu-jitsu tournament because of that. But at the same time, you know, I'm just like, yeah, you got to take the negatives in life and turn them into positives. And one of mine is just to kind of network and meet new friends and make new people, because that's like the thing, is how you launch yourself forward in times of distress really does change the trajectory on your life. And I could say for the most part, like I've had a lot more like diamonds than rough come to me in this dig through era of my life where I'm looking for that next level. Now, it doesn't mean I'm not getting some rough, because obviously I'm bringing you this video, but you know, this was one of the rough things, but it started off as like kind of promising. So I was like in the hot tub at the gym after a workout, and I bumped into this guy. You know, we both were rocking some crosses, so we were talking about, you know, scripture and all that, and how, you know, we were turning our lives around from, you know, kind of like bad areas. You know, I've been turning my life around for a bad area for 7 years, and, you know, I explained to him my story. Like, I used to party a lot. I used to go to like hotel rooms and stuff, and, you know, party a lot. Didn't have any like aim or anything like that, but I was a degenerate at heart. And one day, like in 2020, I had to like make a massive change. And once I made that massive change in 2020, things in my life started looking up. And now years later, I'm kind of in that position where like a lot of people ask me, what did I do to turn my life around, and how did I make things go down in my life? And it's a long story, but it's just like hard work, consistency, always looking for that next thing to learn, always looking for that next thing to educate yourself, continuously leveling up and keeping yourself preoccupied throughout those days where things just kind of seem dull. But this guy was like on the younger end. Now, he was obviously a lot more serious at a younger age, and I didn't start really being serious about my life until I was 24. This guy was like around 21, 22, the perfect age for where they really get people indoctrinated into these things. And like I said, I'm not going to name this guy's name, not going to name his organization. I'm keeping that private, but chances are you've probably heard about them. But, he was selling me on this thing about like people who had retired at the age of 35 and 40 or built these companies and sold them, which does happen. I know some people who have done that where they built up these companies of like even stuff as simple as landscaping, and then they sold the contracts for like 10 mil and now they're retired and then just living a luxury life, all because they chose to do lawns while everyone's spending a lot of money on college degrees just to get a job. They were building businesses, and then they were selling businesses, they were selling assets, and then they got their return back. It was just amazing. But I understand that it's doable, just not through these things. So me and the guy like really connect, and I talked to him about people I know who had success stories. It's like, great, you want to meet up on like the next Saturday? And I'm like, okay, cool. So we talk about like our personal lives, what's going on, how we could coach ourselves and everything like that. And, this was one of those guys that used to have a really bad problem with some certain substances that I'm not going to rename here just for purposes, right? I don't think it's very appropriate for the platform. But he did seem like a guy who also knows what it was like to be at like a bottom area and then build himself back up. And he wanted to start a family just like me. We kind of both had those traditional aspirations to start families and, have kids and live that dream where we can pass on our knowledge to our next generation of children, which is always a good dream, to have. It's always great to see that go down and to, know that you're having a goal or you have like some end game dream that you want to go. Now, obviously, you look around in modern day, a lot of people don't think that dream is very doable, but we were both guys that like looked past the odds and everything like that. So we were very like-minded. We tried to stay positive in negative times. We tried to have goals, micro goals throughout our life. So it seemed like really cool. And then we go to a second meetup at the same restaurant, and he's explaining to me like the 101s of how businesses work. Some stuff that I already knew. I didn't want to be rude and say that, but I already knew, okay, yeah, no, you provide a product or service and someone pays for it. That's a business. Okay, cool. And then he's like, all right, I'm going to invite you over to my house next week. Would you want to do that? And I'm like, okay. So I go over to the house, and then he gets into the business model of the organization that he was a part of. And that's when he showed me that I had to, one, buy the products, and two, I had to spend the money to earn these points, to earn rights and all this stuff. There's a lot of gatekeeping with these accountability points. And, when it came to the bullet points and everything like that, a lot of it seemed like it was twisting and distorting family values for guilt trips. Like, oh, these guys are taking time out away from their kids to help you out, so you better, be prepared. And if you don't do it, it's your fault. Just kind of like that manipulative, toxic stuff that you would see from these kind of things. Now, let's be real. I didn't blame him, but I do realize that he was probably at once a vulnerable guy who really got sucked into this, and he was very deep in it, a lot more deep than I had the potential to be, because once he showed me that I had to spend money on these people's products when I already have similar products that do just as good, if not better, of a job, I just asked him a basic question. So this is a business opportunity where I can make money. Why do I have to buy your products when I could just sell them? And, he's saying, well, would you sell a product you don't buy? And I've had years experience in sales. And I said, well, yeah, I've done that before. Or I don't buy the product, but if you're paying me to sell it, I'm going to sell it. That's bottom line 101. You have a job description. I give you a job. I get commission, right? That's basically how it should go. I shouldn't have to buy all these products. And I could see that this guy bought a ton of the products, and this guy was sold onto the brand. He was, for lack of a better term, brainwashed into whatever it was. Every product in his house was from this company. And then he's saying, you better be prepared because my mentors are going to come by and they're going to want to see how you are. So you can't be negative. You can't be criticizing, all this stuff. And it just kind of seemed like I could tell that this guy was playing the role that he was groomed to play. I don't think that he was, being malicious or anything. What I saw when I looked at this guy now was a guy who was taken at a vulnerable stage in his life and put into what is now basically a cult with suits and capital. And I know that I told him that I had some stuff in my life go wrong, but I wasn't nowhere in a vulnerable spot where I was willing to drink the Kool-Aid and lick the cup. I really wasn't. I mean, because I had gone to a rave the previous weekend. I had made a lot of friends. I had actually visited some friends who are doing some creative projects that they wanted me in on. I'm training for another tournament in September. I have a lot of things on my plate that I'm really working towards that are filling me up. And if I focus on these right now and get them done, this is going to take me places, especially since currently I'm working towards my purple belt. And if I get my purple belt, then I could run privates, make side income on top of my day job. It seems like a lot of the work is about to pay off in other aspects, but I don't think this guy really had that in his life. And I think that's why he got sold onto this brand super fast. And I could tell as soon as I asked just basic questions, right, this guy basically started getting nervous scratches. He started looking like he was about to short circuit, but I didn't want to put him too much on blast or intimidate him too bad, because at the end of the day, I just saw him as a pawn in a very twisted game. So, what I did was I told him, I said, look, man, I appreciate the fact that you're dedicated to something. I appreciate the fact that you have dreams and aspirations, but I'm not going to be, this person who's going to sign some sort of deal where I have to end up paying a bunch of money and losing money potentially on something that I'm not even going to use, when I was promised I was just going to sell it. And I told him I'm not 100% blaming him. I'm just 100%, excuse me. I'm mumbling a little bit, but I'm not 100% blaming him. But I said, if you ever just need a friend or something like that, hit me up, call me up, and what I'll do is we'll hang out, we'll go work out or something like that. I would love to do that for you. And I potentially sold him on some personal training and stuff, because I do have ISSA certifications that I never really got to use. But I would love to take him on as a client if he ever wants to really gain some strength or anything like that. That could really help him build some confidence, just help him overall in his life. So basically, he tried to sell me. I ended up selling him on something, and I never got a definite yes, but that's how you pull an Uno reverse card sometimes. But it was just to kind of help this guy out, to say, hey, you're caught up in something that is fishy. I don't know if I want to do this. So what I would actually recommend is just second thoughts, because he already is working a full-time job on top of this, and he has this dream where he could leap from this to that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Having ambitions, wanting to quit your 9 to 5, starting your own practice, I think that that's all well and good. But what I want this video to turn into is a lesson for younger people, because this guy was a little bit younger than me, and this is the age group and the demographic that they really take on. And there's brands of MLMs and pyramid schemes and all these different things that happen where they target the younger kids who are fresh out of college, who don't have a whole lot of life experience, who have ambition but can have that distorted into something harmful, especially direction. Because I remember when I first got out of college, I was like, what was I going to do next? What am I going to do next with my life? Obviously, I made a few moves, but even then after that, after I hit a dead end, I remember being lost, and I almost got caught up into a couple things, and it was very disheartening and discouraging. And I could tell that that's the wall that this kid was about to hit. And I just wanted to be there to soften the blow, because I know I've been there and everything like that. It could be a very confusing time, and that's where the sharks come out to take a bite out of the younger fish who are just trying to make their way in this world. And here's the reality to the younger people who want to make it in this world, is that there are people who want to subvert your ambitions to work for them, and it's very sinister. It's not right. It's sickening. And I think that this is the kind of practices that gives things like capitalism and starting a business a bad name. Because the thing is business practices need to be honest, transparent, straightforward, and everything like that. Like the Ron Swanson from Parks and Rec said, would you like to buy some apples? Okay, then I'll be $5. Good. That's as complicated as a business should be run in this country, because I live here in America. And honestly, I agree, because you have all these, suits coming in and then muddying down the paper with all these terms and conditions, legal loopholes. How do you define stuff? And it makes what could be a really good, healthy market where people make their products and make their own way, and it turns into a thing where there's a lot of deception, scamming, and all that stuff, and the young people are the ones who have to pay for it. We've all been indoctrinated into something at one point in our life, and we've all had that point where we've had that matrix shattered, and it is both a hurtful feeling, but in the long term, that's a very liberating thing that you can go for, especially after you feel it and you realize, what, I could take something good out of this, because I probably did get something good. I didn't ream this guy out. I didn't try to expose him. I didn't try to embarrass him. All I did was say, hey, you seem like a driven guy who, if he has a purpose, he's going to set his mind to it. I know eventually you will get it right. And if he needs anything, I will be there for him, because I think that he is genuinely just a guy who got caught up in it, and he's not going to be the last kind of person to get caught up in stuff like that, especially people who are coming from vulnerable spots of some substance abuse or some depression or anything, because that's, like I said, that's the tragic part. They always like to exploit those types of people. And my final message is, especially when you're younger, right? You don't learn patience and perspective too far off the bat. When you're in the 18 to 22 range, the perspective comes around late 20s when you start to enter your 30s. That's especially when I really started to mature and started to see some growth, and I started to realize that good things do take time. Like true success and true fulfillment doesn't happen overnight. I think that, when you really work at something for years on end and you finally get a return, like I've been playing guitar for like a year and I'm seeing a return on that, and I'm seeing that it's a really good icebreaker. It helps lighten the mood a lot. That was something that took a lot of pain, frustration, and just consistency to get really good at. But I think it's in that grind where you can find true fulfillment, not something that promises you this multi-million-dollar dream and then Uno reverse, oh, now you have to pay us and you're responsible for all of it and we're going to guilt trip you with all these bullet points that are basically just common sense. So my final word to the young people who are watching this, or anybody who's watching this who has ever been caught up in an MLM or a pyramid scheme or anything like that, what they're doing is not right. What they're doing is taking your ambition and twisting it for their benefit. And I think what you need to do is you need to really stop and see the deception that they go under, because they do a really good job of selling it. So it's not 100% everybody's fault who buys into this. But just remember, true success, not only does it take time, but sometimes the best success is something you come up with out of your own mind and your imagination. And, sometimes I feel like some of that's going away in modern society with, the help of AI and everything like that. I think a lot of people are depending on machines to do their thinking for them, when I think honestly sometimes we put down those machines and use our brains that we were given, from birth, and try to come up with something creative and fulfilling, and, come up with our own ideas, or even do something that's been done before, but find a way to stand out in some way, shape, or form and build a clientele from the start. Even if you have to market it all yourself, it's a long grind, but I promise you, once you get the ball rolling on some of these things, it really is worth it. So keep your ambition, keep your goals, keep your dreams, keep what you want in the back of your head, and continue to grind and work for it. And don't let any sharks out there try to take a bite out of your ambitions, or don't let anybody try to subvert your energy to benefit them when they have nefarious agendas. Because let me tell you something, the people who are driven, the people who want to do something with their lives, those are the people who are going to shape the future of this world, in my opinion. And, to see people subvert that and do what they were doing to this guy, it's like what the Bronx Tale said, it's wasted talent. And wasted talent is the saddest thing. I like to add to that, wasted ambition is the saddest thing, because we don't have too many ambitious people out there. I feels like sometimes, like there's a lot of people who want to do things the lazy way, and there's not a whole lot of people who want to put themselves through the hard grind. And the saddest thing is when we see people who want to do something great in this world get discouraged because there's so much rug pulling and there's so many different scams out there. Just know to stay away from those, because I don't want to see you guys lose that spark inside that's going to drive our world forward. But other than that, I'm just going to say, stay safe out there, watch for advertising, and you know what? Have a great day. I love you guys. Thank you guys very much for watching. And also, thank you to all the new subscribers that have been slowly coming onto my channel. It does mean a lot, but I will see you guys on the next one. Peace out, and have a good day.